Tom Callahan stood in the empty driveway of what used to be his family's ranch, watching strangers load the last of his cattle onto transport trucks. 43 head. All that remained of the 200-acre operation his grandfather had started in 1952. It was October 2023, and Tom had officially lost everything. The bank had foreclosed 3 weeks ago after Tom defaulted on loans for the third consecutive year. Drought had devastated his pastures for 2 seasons. Hay prices had tripled. Cattle prices had crashed. And Tom, who'd always been better at ranching than business, had made every wrong financial decision possible trying to save the operation. His wife Laura had left 6 months earlier, taking their 2 teenage daughters, Emma and Sophie, back to her parents in Billings. "I can't watch you destroy yourself anymore," she'd said, tears streaming down her face. "The girls need stability. I need stability. And you need to accept that this is over." But Tom couldn't accept it, wouldn't accept it. This ranch was his identity, his legacy, his entire world. Without it, he was nothing. Now, standing in the November cold with $247 in his bank account and nowhere to go, Tom finally understood what Laura had meant. It was over. Completely, devastatingly over. "Mr. Callahan?" The livestock hauler approached with a clipboard. "That's the last of them. Need you to sign the transfer papers." Tom signed without reading, his hand shaking. 43 cattle, sold at rock-bottom prices to cover a fraction of what he owed. The bank would take the land, the house, the equipment, everything. "There's one more," the hauler said, checking his notes. "A calf, Holstein, female. But he hesitated. "She's not doing well. Pneumonia, looks like. Worth maybe $50 for cull beef if she survives transport. You want me to load her?" Tom walked to the barn where the hauler pointed. In the corner, lying on filthy straw, was a calf that couldn't have been more than 3 months old. She was painfully thin, her ribs visible through dull black and white fur. Her breathing was labored, rattling with fluid. One eye was crusted shut with infection. "She's a dairy calf," the hauler explained. "Holstein. Someone probably bought her cheap from a dairy trying to get into beef. But she's sick, undersized, and honestly, not worth the feed it'd take to get her healthy. If she even survives." Tom knelt beside the calf. She didn't move, didn't acknowledge him, just lay there breathing with terrible effort, waiting to die. "I can take her to the sale barn," the hauler offered. "Get you $50 maybe. Or leave her here, and she'll be the bank's problem when they take possession." $50. That's what this dying animal was worth to the world. Tom thought about his grandfather, who'd taught him that every life on a ranch mattered. Who'd sat up nights with sick calves, who'd given them names, who'd believed that how you treated the weakest creatures said everything about your character. His grandfather would never have left a suffering animal to die alone. "I'll keep her," Tom heard himself say. The hauler looked at him like he was crazy. "Mr. Callahan, you just lost your ranch. You don't even have a place to live. What are you going to do with a dying calf?" "I don't know, but I'm not leaving her." The hauler shrugged. "Your call. Sign here acknowledging you're keeping one animal from the lot." After the trucks left, Tom sat in the barn with the calf, the silence overwhelming. The building that used to be full of cattle, equipment noise, the sounds of a working ranch, now it held just one dying animal and a broken man. "I don't even know your name," Tom said to the calf, "or if you have one." She didn't respond, just kept that terrible, rattling breath going. Tom checked his phone. 3 missed calls from Laura, texts from his daughters asking if he was okay, messages from former friends in the community, people who'd watched his spectacular failure with a mixture of pity and judgment. Tom Callahan, the guy who lost his grandfather's ranch, the guy who couldn't make it work, the cautionary tale. He was the laughingstock of the county, the failure everyone whispered about at the feed store. Tom looked at the calf again. "You and me both, huh? Nobody wants us. Nobody thinks we're worth saving." He pulled out his phone and called Dr. Sarah Chen, the local vet. They'd gone to high school together, and unlike most people in town, Sarah didn't judge. "Tom? I heard about the foreclosure. I'm so sorry." "Sarah, I need a favor. I've got a calf, Holstein, maybe 3 months old, severe pneumonia, malnourished, eye infection. She's dying. Can you..." Can you come look at her? Tom, I can come look, but treatment's expensive. Antibiotics, fluids, follow-up care, you're looking at $400 minimum. Do you have... I have $247. That's it, but I'm asking anyway. There was a long pause. I'll be there in 20 minutes. And Tom, we'll figure something out. Sarah arrived with her medical kit and knelt beside the calf immediately, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. Severe pneumonia, as you said. Dehydration. This eye infection is bad. Might lose vision in that eye even with treatment. She's underweight by at least 30 pounds. Sarah looked at Tom seriously. Tom, even with aggressive treatment, her chances aren't great. Maybe 50-50. And she'll never be a productive beef animal. She's a dairy breed. Wrong build, wrong genetics for this area. Even healthy, she's worthless for your purposes. I don't have purposes anymore, Tom said quietly. I don't have a ranch. I don't have cattle. I can't watch another thing die. Sarah's expression softened. Okay, here's what I can do. I'll donate the initial treatment. Antibiotics, eye medication, subcutaneous fluids. But you'll need to follow up. Daily injections for 10 days. Bottle feeding if she won't eat. Round-the-clock care. I can do that. Where are you staying? The bank's taking possession of this property in 72 hours. Tom hadn't thought that far ahead. I don't know. Sarah pulled out her phone. My brother has a small property outside of town. 5 acres, old cabin, hasn't been used in years. He's been trying to figure out what to do with it. Let me call him. 15 minutes later, it was arranged. Tom could stay in the cabin rent-free for 6 months in exchange for fixing it up. There was a small barn, enough space for one animal. This doesn't solve your problems, Sarah said as she administered antibiotics to the calf. But it buys you time. What you do with that time is up to you. After Sarah left, Tom sat with the calf through the night, monitoring her breathing, giving her water through a syringe when she was too weak to drink, talking to her because the silence was unbearable. I'm going to call you Hope, Tom said around 3 a.m. when the calf's breathing seemed slightly less labored. Because you're the only thing I have left that's still fighting. And if you can fight, maybe I can too. Hope's good eye opened slightly, focusing on Tom for the first time. That's it, Tom whispered. Stay with me. We're both worthless according to the world. We've both got nothing. But maybe that means we've got nothing left to lose. 3 days later, Tom moved Hope to the cabin's small barn. The calf was stronger, not healthy, but alive, drinking from a bottle, standing on shaky legs. The cabin was barely habitable. No running water, wood stove for heat, roof that leaked, but it was shelter. And the barn, while small, kept Hope dry and protected. Tom's daughters called. Dad, come to Billings. Stay with Grandma and Grandpa. Find a job. Start over. I can't leave yet, Tom said. I have responsibilities. Dad, you don't have a ranch anymore. What responsibilities? Tom looked at Hope, who was watching him with trusting eyes as he prepared her evening bottle. I'll explain later. I love you both. The community response was exactly what Tom expected. Word spread that Tom Callahan, the guy who'd just lost everything, had kept a worthless dying calf instead of taking the $50 payout. At the feed store, Tom overheard whispers. He's lost his mind. Waste of money he doesn't have. That calf won't make it anyway. Even if it does, it's a dairy breed. What's he gonna do with it? Tom bought calf formula with his dwindling cash and ignored them. But one person didn't ignore him. Sarah Chen stopped by the cabin a week after Hope's initial treatment. How's our patient? Tom led her to the barn. Hope was standing, eating hay, her breathing clear. The eye infection was healing, though Sarah had been right. The calf would likely have impaired vision in that eye permanently. Tom, this is remarkable. She's responding to treatment better than I expected. Sarah examined Hope thoroughly. She's gaining weight. Breathing's clear. You've been doing the injections correctly. I follow instructions. Sarah looked at Tom, really looked at him. You've lost 40 pounds. When's the last time you ate a real meal? I eat. You're spending money on calf formula instead of food for yourself, aren't you? Tom didn't answer. Sarah pulled groceries from her truck. Bread, eggs, canned soup, basics. Take these. And Tom? What you're doing here, caring for this calf when you have nothing. People are talking about it. I know. They think I'm crazy. Some do, but others, Sarah smiled slightly. Others are starting to wonder if maybe you understand something they don't. Winter hit Montana hard that year. By mid-December, temperatures dropped to -15 degrees Fahrenheit, and the snow piled 3 feet deep around the cabin. Tom woke every morning at 5 a.m. to break ice in Hope's water bucket, feed her, check her health. The calf had survived. Against all odds, she'd survived, and was growing stronger each day. Her ribs no longer showed. Her coat had gained shine. Even the damaged eye seemed less clouded. But Tom himself was deteriorating. The cabin had minimal insulation, and he burned through firewood faster than he could cut it. His savings were down to $63. He ate 1 meal a day, usually oatmeal or soup, saving the rest of his money for Hope's feed. Laura called regularly, begging him to come to Billings. Tom, you're going to freeze to death out there, or starve. Please, the girls miss you. I miss you. Come home. This is home now, Tom said, looking at Hope through the barn window. And I can't leave her. She's a calf, Tom. An animal. You're choosing her over your family? I'm not choosing her over anyone. I'm not giving up on something that needs me. Not again. Laura's silence was heavy. Is this about the ranch? About proving something? Maybe. I don't know anymore. After 3 weeks without contact, Emma and Sophie drove out to the cabin unannounced. They were 16 and 14, and Tom barely recognized them. They'd grown up so much in the 6 months since he'd seen them. Dad, this place is horrible, Emma said, looking at the drafty cabin with horror. You're living like this? It's temporary. How temporary? You can't stay here forever. Sophie had walked to the barn and was staring at Hope. Dad, is this the calf? The one everyone's talking about? What are they saying? That you gave up everything for a worthless animal. That you've lost your mind. Sophie turned to him, her eyes fierce. But I don't think you're crazy. I think you're the only person who saw that she was worth saving. Tom felt tears sting his eyes. She was dying, Sophie. Nobody wanted her. And I couldn't watch her die alone. Like you felt alone when we left, Sophie said quietly. The truth of it hit Tom hard. Maybe? Emma joined them in the barn, approaching Hope cautiously. The calf, now 4 months old and significantly healthier, watched them with curious eyes. She's pretty. What's her name? Hope. That's perfect. Emma reached out and Hope nuzzled her hand. Dad, what's your plan? You can't live in this cabin forever taking care of one calf. I don't know yet, I'm just taking it one day at a time. Before they left, Sophie hugged Tom tightly. We miss you, but I understand why you're here. Just don't give up on us too, okay? Never. I promise. Word about Tom and Hope continued to spread through the community, but the tone was shifting. What had started as mockery was becoming something else. A local rancher, Dale Morrison, stopped by the cabin in mid-January. He was in his 70s, respected throughout the county, and Tom braced himself for judgment. Heard you're the fool keeping that dairy calf alive, Dale said without preamble. Yes, sir. Dale walked to the barn and studied Hope for a long moment. She looks good, healthy. You did that? Dr. Chen did most of it. I just followed instructions. Don't sell yourself short, son. Nursing a calf from near death to healthy takes skill and dedication. Dale turned to Tom. I knew your grandfather. Good man. Taught you right, I see. He taught me that every life matters. Even when that life has no economic value? Especially then? Dale nodded slowly. My grandson's in 4-H. Been wanting to teach him about raising livestock, but all our cattle are working animals. Not suitable for a boys' project. Would you consider letting him work with Hope? Teach him daily care, responsibility? Tom was stunned. You want your grandson learning from me? Everyone thinks I'm a failure. You lost a ranch. That's economics and bad luck. But you saved a dying animal when you had nothing. That's character. Dale extended his hand. I'll pay for Hope's feed and care. My grandson Jacob will come by after school 3 days a week. You teach him what you know. Deal? Tom shook his hand, overwhelmed. Deal. Jacob Morrison was 12 years old, serious and quiet. He arrived the next afternoon with his grandfather, carrying notebooks and questions. Mr. Callahan, Grandpa says you saved Hope when she was dying. How did you know what to do? For the next hour, Tom taught Jacob everything. How to check for signs of illness, proper feeding techniques, the importance of clean water, how to handle cattle with respect rather than force. Hope, sensing the boy's gentle nature, responded beautifully. By the end of the session, Jacob was bottle feeding her, his face glowing with pride. She trusts me, Jacob said in wonder. That's because you're trustworthy, Tom replied. Animals know the difference. Dale watched from the barn entrance, nodding approvingly. As they were leaving, he pulled Tom aside. The boy's father left 2 years ago. Hasn't been the same since. What you're doing here, it's giving him something to care about again. Thank you. I should be thanking you. The feed money, it's keeping us both alive. Consider it payment for teaching my grandson something school never could. That value isn't just about profit, it's about character. By February, Jacob came 4 days a week. Other 4-H kids heard about the project and asked to visit. Soon, Tom was teaching 5 children basic livestock care using Hope as the demonstration animal. The kids' parents started stopping by, some skeptical but most grateful that their children had found a positive mentor in Tom Callahan, the man who'd lost everything but hadn't lost his principles. One mother, Jennifer Hayes, owned a small marketing company in town. She'd been documenting her son's progress with Hope on social media, photos of Jacob and the other kids learning from Tom, videos of Hope's remarkable recovery. Mr. Callahan, can I talk to you about something? Jennifer approached Tom after a session. My posts about Hope and your teaching, they're getting attention. A lot of attention. She showed him her phone. Thousands of shares, comments from across the country. This is what agriculture should be, teaching kids to value life over profit. That farmer lost everything but kept his humanity. That's a real man. Hope the calf represents everyone who's been told they're worthless. Beautiful story. I think this could be something bigger, Jennifer said carefully. A lot of people are asking how they can support what you're doing. Would you consider starting a fund, not for yourself, for creating a youth agricultural education program using Hope as the foundation? Tom was overwhelmed. I'm not qualified to run a program. I'm the guy who failed at ranching. You're the guy who's teaching my son that kindness matters more than profit. That's exactly the qualification we need. Within 2 weeks, Jennifer had created a crowdfunding campaign, Hope's Hollow, Youth Agricultural Education. The goal was $10,000 to formalize Tom's teaching, purchase equipment, and create a small farm where kids could learn hands-on livestock care. The campaign raised $10,000 in 3 days. By the end of the month, it had raised $75,000. Tom stared at the numbers in disbelief. Donations came from farmers, teachers, parents, people who'd never stepped foot on a ranch but were moved by the story of a rejected farmer and a worthless calf who'd both found purpose. What do I do with this? Tom asked Sarah Chen, who'd become his closest advisor. You build what people are asking for. A place where kids learn that agriculture isn't just about economics, it's about stewardship, responsibility, and recognizing value where others see none. Dale Morrison donated 5 acres adjacent to the cabin property. Local contractors volunteered to build a proper barn and fencing. A feed company donated a year's supply of livestock feed. Equipment dealers offered used but functional tractors and tools at cost. By April, Hope's Hollow was taking shape, a small but functional educational farm where Tom taught twice-weekly classes to 20 children, using Hope and 3 other rescued animals as teaching tools. The transformation was stunning. The worthless dying calf had become the centerpiece of a youth program that was changing lives, and Tom, the failed farmer, the laughingstock, had become a mentor, a teacher, someone who mattered again. But more importantly, he'd found purpose. One evening in late April, as Tom was closing up the barn, a truck pulled into the driveway. Laura stepped out, followed by Emma and Sophie. Tom's heart stopped. "Laura." "We wanted to see it," she said, gesturing at the property. "Hope's Hollow. Everyone's talking about it." Tom led them on a tour. The barn, the classroom space, the pasture where Hope grazed contentedly, now a healthy 7-month-old heifer. "Dad, this is amazing," Emma said, watching Hope interact with the other animals. "You built all this?" "The community built it. I just provided the inspiration, I guess." Laura was quiet throughout the tour. Finally, she spoke. "Tom, I owe you an apology. I thought keeping hope was proof you'd given up on reality. But you weren't giving up. You were finding a new reality, one that actually matters. I don't blame you for leaving. I was drowning and pulling everyone down with me. But you weren't drowning. You were transforming. I just couldn't see it yet." Laura touched his arm gently. "The girls want to spend more time here, learn from you, and I'd like to try again, not rushing back to what we were, but building something new, together." Tom looked at Hope, grazing peacefully in the evening light. The calf that nobody wanted, the animal everyone said wasn't worth saving. She'd saved him instead. "I'd like that too," Tom said quietly. By summer, Hope's Hollow had 30 regular students and a waiting list of 50 more. What started as one man teaching 5 kids had become a recognized youth agricultural program, drawing attention from across Montana. Local schools began sending students for field trips. Tom taught them not just animal care, but life lessons disguised as farming, responsibility, patience, recognizing value beyond appearances, the reward of caring for something vulnerable. Hope, now nearly a year old, had become remarkably gentle and patient with children. Despite being a dairy breed in beef country, still technically worthless by ranching standards, she'd become invaluable as an educational ambassador. "She's worth more as a teacher than she ever would have been as livestock," Dale Morrison observed during a program evaluation meeting. "Sometimes the most valuable things can't be measured in dollars." The media attention intensified. Regional news covered the story. Then national outlets picked it up. Failed farmer builds youth program around rescued calf. Agricultural colleges invited Tom to speak. He stood before auditoriums of students studying agribusiness and told them what textbooks never could. "I lost everything chasing profit margins and forgot why I became a rancher in the first place. Hope reminded me that agriculture isn't just business, it's stewardship. When we lose that, we lose everything that matters." Laura moved back in June, slowly rebuilding their relationship. She started managing Hope's Hollow's administrative work, scheduling, fundraising, communications. Emma and Sophie spent weekends teaching younger kids, finding purpose in passing forward what their father had learned. "Dad's different now," Sophie told her mother one evening. "Lighter, like he's not carrying the weight of the whole world anymore. He learned to let go of what he lost and embrace what he found," Laura said, watching Tom teach a class through the barn window. "That's not easy for proud men." Jacob Morrison, now 13, had become Tom's assistant instructor. The quiet boy who'd arrived broken by his father's abandonment had found confidence and purpose working with Hope and teaching others. "Mr. Callahan saved my life," Jacob told a journalist interviewing program participants. "Not dramatically, but he showed me that being rejected doesn't mean you're worthless. Hope taught me that too. Everyone said she was useless, but look at her now. She's changed everything." In September, Tom received an unexpected call from Montana State University's Agricultural Extension Program. "Mr. Callahan, we'd like to partner with Hope's Hollow to develop a statewide youth agricultural literacy curriculum. Your model, combining practical skills with character development, it's exactly what rural communities need." The partnership brought legitimacy, funding, and resources. Hope's Hollow became an official extension demonstration site. Tom was hired as a part-time consultant, finally earning steady income again. But the real validation came from the community that had once mocked him. At the county fair in October, Hope was entered not as livestock, but in the exhibition category. When Tom led her into the arena, the stands, packed with locals who'd watched his fall and resurrection, rose in standing ovation. "This is Hope," Tom told the crowd, his voice thick with emotion. "A year ago, everyone said she was worthless, including me, almost. But she taught me that value isn't determined by others' opinions. It's determined by how much you're willing to invest in something when nobody else believes." The judge, a rancher Tom had known for 30 years, stepped forward. "Tom Callahan, this animal represents everything agriculture should be, but often isn't: compassion, stewardship, and recognition that our purpose isn't just profit, but passing forward something meaningful to the next generation." Hope received a special recognition award. But more importantly, Tom received something he'd lost: respect. That night, sitting on the cabin porch with Laura, watching Hope graze under the stars, Tom reflected on the impossible journey. "A year ago, I had nothing, was nothing. And now you have everything that actually matters," Laura finished. "Not a big ranch or financial success, but purpose, family, and a community you've inspired. All because of one dying calf I couldn't walk away from." "No," Laura corrected gently, "because you recognized yourself in her. You were both rejected, worthless by the world's standards, and you decided that wasn't true for either of you." Tom watched Hope, healthy, content, valuable beyond measure, and understood. He hadn't saved Hope. They'd saved each other. 18 months after Tom found Hope dying in that barn, the program had grown beyond anything he'd imagined. Hope's Hollow served over 100 students, had expanded to 15 acres, and housed 12 rescued animals, all worthless by agricultural standards, all invaluable as teachers. But in March, Tom received devastating news. Hope had developed a severe infection in her damaged eye, the one that had been injured as a calf. Dr. Sarah Chen examined her thoroughly, her expression grave. "Tom, the infection's aggressive. It's not responding to antibiotics. The eye needs to be removed surgically, or the infection could spread and become life-threatening." "Then remove it," Tom said immediately. "The surgery costs $4,000, and Tom—" Sarah hesitated. "Even after surgery, Hope's quality of life will be diminished. One eye, permanent vision impairment. Some people would say it's time to consider—" "No." Tom's voice was steel. "We don't give up on her. We didn't give up when she was dying. We don't give up now." Sarah nodded. "I thought you'd say that. I'm donating half the surgical costs. But you'll need to raise the other $2,000. Tom posted on Hope's Hollow's social media that evening, explaining the situation honestly. Within 6 hours, donations exceeded $8,000. People who'd followed Hope's story from the beginning responded immediately. Hope saved that program. Now it's our turn to save her. This calf taught us that imperfection doesn't mean worthless. Prove it by fighting for her." The surgery was scheduled for the following week. The night before Hope's surgery, Tom sat with her in the barn, stroking her neck, talking to her like he had during those first desperate nights. "You know what everyone said when I kept you? That I was wasting time and money on something that would die anyway. That even if you lived, you'd be useless." Tom's voice broke. "They were wrong about you then. They're wrong now. You're not useless. You never were." Laura found him there at midnight. "She's going to be okay. Sarah's the best." "What if she's not? What if I pushed too hard, kept her alive when I should have?" "Tom, stop. You gave Hope a life she never would have had. Every child she's taught, every person she's inspired, that's because you refuse to give up. Whatever happens tomorrow, you gave her meaning." The surgery took 3 hours. Tom paced the clinic waiting room, unable to sit, unable to think about anything except Hope on that operating table. Finally, Sarah emerged, exhausted but smiling. She came through perfectly. The eyes removed, infections cleared. She'll need recovery time, but Tom, she's going to be fine. Tom broke down, weeks of fear releasing in shuddering sobs. "Thank you. God, thank you." Hope's recovery took 6 weeks. During that time, Tom documented her progress honestly. The painful healing, the adjustment to single-eye vision, the frustration and setbacks. Students visited regularly, learning that setbacks were part of life, that recovery wasn't linear, that caring for something meant staying through the difficult parts. Jacob Morrison, now 14, spent hours helping Hope adjust. "She's teaching us even now," he told Tom, "that obstacles don't define you. How you handle them does." When Hope finally returned to full activity, something remarkable happened. Her bond with the students deepened. Children who'd been afraid to approach animals gravitated to her, sensing her gentleness, recognizing her as someone who'd survived hardship and emerged stronger. A girl with a prosthetic leg told Tom, "Hope only has one eye, and I only have one real leg, but we're both okay. We're both still here." That moment crystallized everything for Tom. Hope wasn't just teaching agriculture. She was teaching resilience, acceptance, and the profound truth that being broken doesn't mean being worthless. In May, 2 years after Tom had found Hope dying, Montana's governor visited Hope's Hollow for a ceremonial bill signing, legislation funding agricultural education programs statewide, inspired directly by Hope's Hollow's success. This program started with one rejected farmer and one dying calf that nobody wanted, the governor said to assembled press and community members. Today, it's a model for youth education across our state. That's the power of refusing to accept others' definitions of value. Tom stood beside Hope, now a fully grown heifer with one eye and more dignity than any animal he'd ever known, and addressed the crowd. 2 years ago, I was the laughingstock of this community. Failed farmer, broken man. Everyone had written me off, including myself. Then I found Hope, and everyone said she was worthless too. But we were both wrong, all of us. Value isn't determined by perfection or profit. It's determined by purpose. Hope gave me purpose when I had none. And together, we've given purpose to hundreds of kids who needed to know that being different, being broken, being rejected, none of that defines your worth. The applause was thunderous. But Tom was looking at Jacob Morrison in the front row, the broken boy who'd become a confident young man. At his own daughters, who'd learned that failure wasn't permanent. At Laura, who'd learned that transformation was possible. All because he'd refused to walk away from one dying calf. 5 years after Tom Callahan found Hope dying in that barn, Hope's Hollow had become more than a program. It had become a movement. 3 similar programs had opened across Montana, modeled on Tom's approach. Agricultural colleges included his curriculum in their teaching programs. And Tom himself had published a book, The Value of the Worthless, Lessons from a Rescued Calf and a Rejected Farmer. But the real measure of success wasn't in numbers or recognition. It was in the lives changed. Jacob Morrison had graduated high school and enrolled in veterinary school, determined to dedicate his career to animals others deemed worthless. "Mr. Callahan and Hope taught me that every life has value," Jacob said at his graduation. "That's what I want to spend my life proving." 23 other students from the original Hope's Hollow classes had pursued careers in agriculture, education, or animal welfare, each crediting the program with showing them that purpose mattered more than profit. Emma was studying agricultural education at Montana State. Sophie volunteered at animal shelters, rescuing creatures others had abandoned. Both credited their father's transformation with teaching them resilience. "Dad could have given up," Emma told a documentary crew filming Hope's Hollow's 5th anniversary. "He'd lost everything, but he chose to save one dying calf instead. That decision changed hundreds of lives, including ours." Hope herself, now 5 years old and thriving despite her single eye, had become a living legend. Children from across the state visited specifically to meet her, to touch the animal whose survival had sparked so much change. She remained gentle, patient, and remarkably intuitive with struggling kids. Tom watched her interact with a withdrawn boy dealing with his parents' divorce, and saw Hope rest her head against the child's shoulder, the same gesture she'd given Tom during his darkest nights. "She knows," Tom said to Laura, who now ran Hope's Hollow's daily operations while Tom focused on consulting and speaking. "She knows who needs her." "Just like you knew she needed you," Laura replied. Their marriage, rebuilt slowly over 5 years, was stronger than before. Forged not in prosperity, but in shared purpose. They'd learned that love wasn't about avoiding failure, but about choosing each other through it. On Hope's Hollow's 5th anniversary celebration, the community gathered for a ceremony honoring the program's impact. The governor returned. Agricultural leaders spoke. Students shared testimonials. But the most powerful moment came when Dale Morrison, now 78, stood to speak. 5 years ago, most of us thought Tom Callahan had lost his mind keeping that dying calf. We thought he was wasting what little he had left on something worthless. Dale's voice wavered with emotion. We were wrong, dead wrong. Tom saw value where we saw none. He invested everything in something everyone else had rejected, and because of that decision, that one moment of faith, this community is better. Our children are better. We're all better. Dale gestured to Hope, standing peacefully nearby. That animal has taught more people more important lessons than most humans ever will. And Tom, the man we called a failure, he's taught us that true success isn't measured in acres owned or profit earned. It's measured in lives touched and purpose fulfilled. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. That evening, as the celebration wound down, Tom walked Hope to her pasture one final time. She moved with confidence despite her limited vision, knowing every inch of her home. You know what's funny? Tom said, stroking her neck. I thought I was saving you, but you saved me. Gave me purpose when I had none. Taught me that value isn't about being perfect or profitable. It's about refusing to give up on what matters. Hope made that soft, contented sound she always did when Tom spoke to her. People ask me what the secret is. To the program's success. To turning everything around. Tom smiled. And I tell them the truth. I stopped measuring worth by the world's standards. Started measuring it by whether something or someone needed me. You needed me, and I needed you. Everything else followed from that. Laura joined them, slipping her hand into Tom's. Together they watched Hope graze under the Montana sunset, one-eyed, imperfect, invaluable. 5 years ago we had nothing, Laura said softly. 5 years ago, we had everything, Tom corrected. We just didn't know it yet. We had each other. We had hope, literally and figuratively. We had the courage to bet everything on something worthless, and it turned out to be priceless. Tom looked at the program they'd built, the students whose lives had changed, the community that had transformed from mocking to celebrating, the family that had healed. All because he'd refused to walk away from one dying calf. Yeah, Tom agreed, pulling Laura close. Priceless. Hope lifted her head, her single eye catching the sunset light, and for a moment Tom could swear she was smiling. The rejected farmer and the worthless calf, both had found redemption, purpose, and proof that the world's definitions of value were often tragically wrong. Sometimes the most important decision you'll ever make is choosing to save something everyone else has given up on. Because sometimes, in saving them, you save yourself.